He was otherwise distracted, but he will be joining us. There's a certain football game on that was distracting him.
That's awesome. So I actually have the live stream working. So whenever he's ready, or whatever he hops on, whenever we're ready.
It's not letting me mute on my side.
Did that work, Amy?
Well, you muted me and then it let me back on, but it doesn't.
It won't let you mute it? That is so weird.
It is weird. I'll just make sure it's real quiet in here.
You're good. Let's see. Sorry, guys. I know my face is probably all special as it's sitting like right in front of the camera. I have no idea. It usually just, if I do that, it usually fixes it.
I can do it on the side, just not on my picture, so we're good. Mike, did you say Rick's going to jump on?
Yeah, I would go ahead and get started. You're fine. He should be with us momentarily.
Okay, because it looks like we have a lot tonight. Okay, like to welcome everybody to our Planning Commission work session. Note that all the commissioners are here with the exception of Blair Jones, and Rick Herman should be joining us any minute live. Let's see, do we want to go to presentation and reports, Mr. Eggett?
Yeah, sure. I'll just quickly note what few things I know are coming that you should be aware about. Five Below has a building permit issued. They are going. Yes. Oh, man, that's Rick. Hi, Rick. Five Below has a building permit issued, and it's moving forward. As we noted before, Harbor Freight Tools is in the final stages of just resolving some building plans, but they're moving forward. Scandinavian Designs, I couldn't remember their name, has a temporary business license building permit for their shop. They have some things to do with their building, but they're pretty much, I guess you could say, somewhat open for business or opening for business with that. As far as other things going on, the demolition of the Best Buy building is still forthcoming. We think that their timetable has been a little bit delayed because of some connectivity to the existing shops, the smaller row spaces that are to the west towards Lowe's. There's a couple of tenants, one at least, that is still in lease and needs the utilities. So until they're relocated to their new location, which is going to be over by Bombay Bites and I forget the beautician store. Anyway, Salon Centric, that's it. The Nell's place will relocate over there. Until such time, that building will remain up, and then they'll demo it once that's relocated. That's what we think. Another thing that's moving forward pretty quickly is the building where Zeppies is almost finished. They have a shell final to do and then a final inspection. That project will be done, and Zeppies is getting pretty close over there. And then you see some of the newer things on the agenda tonight where they're at and tracking, and then a brand new public hearing that's tied to potentially future projects. So some good things happening in the city without saying too much more, but that's my report, and defer back to you, Chair, to take over. Thanks.
Hey, Ms. Chair. Amy Ann,
Yes, sir.
can I take just a minute?
You're the mayor. You can take all the time you want.
Yeah, I don't want to do that. I just usually stop by toward the end of the year at a work session for the Planning Commission. This year it's a little hard to stop by, so I just wanted to publicly thank you. Thank you for your service, your willingness to serve in the community. I know that you on the Planning Commission are all volunteers primarily, serving the residents of our city. And I know they appreciate it. I know the city council appreciates what you do, and I know that I do. And you don't have an easy job. Some meetings are pretty quiet, and others can be pretty hectic when you have public hearings and concerned citizens with what's going on in the city that might affect them. But you make big decisions, you make great recommendations, and it really supports what we're trying to do here, and we really appreciate your service. We've got a lot going on this next year. It's surprising with the COVID how busy everything is. Everybody's staying in, it seems. Well, there's a lot of people out and shopping and doing things, and that's great for our city. But lots of new things coming, huh, Mike? It's just busy. Phones keep ringing, and a lot of great things coming up, it looks like, for 2021. So we, again, appreciate what you do. I just wanted to take a minute tonight and wish each of you a very Merry Christmas, you and your families, and hope that the year 2021 is really good to you, that it's COVID safe, and it's just a healthy and a happy new year for each one of you. Also extend that to Shaylee and Mike and those of you that are visiting with us tonight. But again, we appreciate all you do. I'm going to leave this meeting and probably join you on the live stream. So wish you the best tonight. Thanks a million for all you do. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Any other comments? Consent items, our consideration of meeting minutes. Did anybody find anything? I seen one typo and I cannot remember where, I had it highlighted on one computer and can't find it on the other. It was super simple. Anyone else? Okay, let's go to our action items. Number 1, discuss regarding proposed rezone request for properties located at approximately 1450 West Riverdale Road, Riverdale, Utah. And then consideration to set the public hearing proposed for rezone request from agricultural A1 zoning to regional commercial C3 zoning for properties located at approximately 1450 West Riverdale Road, Riverdale, Utah 84405, as requested by Maverick/Eric Anderson. Mr. Eggett?
Thank you. All right, so Eric Anderson, who is here with us for the work session, if you have any questions about this before the main meeting you'd like to talk about, has submitted this request on behalf of Maverick, but as well as Gibby Floral and the Gibby family, who are the property owners. They've met all the requirements of submission. As you look at the application, it says proposed use is a proposed convenience store, approximately 5951 square feet with 7 fuel dispensers and canopy in front of the store, 4 additional commercial dispensers for a total of 11 fuel dispensers on site. The development will provide fueling, packaged beer and wine sales, as well as fresh food items. Restroom facilities will be open to the public. The store will operate 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. This is on 4.58 acres of land at that relative location you noted in the address. The existing use currently is a floral nursery, and then there is a rental home as well on the property, and then some undeveloped land further to the east. As you can see, as you scroll down to the application requirements, there's a requirement to submit the application, a property plat map, legal description, and the fee. All those items have been fulfilled for the submission. If you look at the response in support of Maverick's rezone request, I won't read each of those answers, but the questions asked on the typical rezone are: why should the present zoning be changed? How is the proposed change in harmony with the city general plan for this area? If the proposed change is not in harmony, what conditions and circumstances have taken place in the general area since the general plan was adopted to warrant such a change? And the last one is: how is the change in the public interest as well as the applicant's desire? And Mr. Anderson and his team have answered those questions. And then following, you'll see the supporting documentation. This item specifically, now to kind of talk about what's not shown in the application, but it kind of explain some of the, I don't know that you'd call them issues, but discussion points that will likely come up as this discussion continues, is the property owners, Gibby family, has a concern relative to a rezone being a permanent policy decision on this property that impacts their taxable income for land use. Currently it's A1, it's greenbelt status. The general plan actually does like a rezone to commercial high in this area, obviously as a result of the West Bench RDA area and the desires of that area at some future date to be more commercial use anyway. So this is definitely supported by the general plan, this request. But the Gibby family, should for whatever reason Maverick not move forward with their development project, is concerned about a permanent rezone that changes their taxable status of their property, which most of us can understand, at least in concept, what those concerns would be. So I came up with a solution I ran by our city attorney today, who is supportive of this, and it seems to work where it's kind of this compromise that lets the Gibbies have some control over the situation, but also lets the policy decisions be made, and that is a contingent rezone request. So the rezone request, as this moves forward more formally, if we were to schedule this, would still be to rezone it to C3. But the idea that I've suggested, and I think that we need to consider as a planning commission and eventually as a city council, is a contingent rezone to C3, regional commercial 3, subject to a final site plan approval from the city council. That way, if Maverick were not to get their final site plan approval from city council, then the zoning would not go forward. And so it creates a stopgap that protects Gibby's interests in the event that Maverick and Maverick's leadership at some point says, nah, we changed our mind, or something in the market happens, or COVID comes back worse in a couple months, whatever the things are. It gives those protections to the Gibbies, where right now they're having some heartache about what to do with the project. So it sounds reasonable from our end. I've talked to Mr. Anderson. He seemed all supportive of that. I don't know if Maverick and Mr. Anderson have talked to the Gibbies where this idea just came to fruition this morning. But from us as a city, it seems reasonable. This protects us from not getting in to the same scenario we just went through over the last 12 years. Similar to this, when we entered into a development agreement and it created quite a bit of problems. This is a softer approach. It still protects those interests, but if the site plan's never approved, then the rezone doesn't get approved. And it just stays what it was as A1, even though they've gone through the process. So I think we all feel comfortable with that. It's probably more than I need to say, but with that, really tonight, that's just something about in the back of your mind. Really tonight, the biggest thing is, absent some major issue you want to talk about with the application at hand, save your more specific questions about the rezone for a future discussion. But at this point, it would be calendaring for that actual rezone, so Shaylee and I can then get notice out and meet all the requirements of state to do that. And that calendaring would be set for, our recommendation would be for January 12th, your January 12th, 2021 meeting is what we would recommend were you to calendar it. So with that, I think that's all I really feel like saying, unless you have any questions specifically for me or Mr. Anderson, who is on the meeting, and we'll go from there.
Any questions, anybody? Okay, let's move on to item number 2. Consideration of final subdivision site plan and plot recommendation for approval of Riverdale Landing Phase 2 subdivision, property located approximately 4182 South, 4194 South Riverdale Road, Riverdale, Utah 84405, as requested by Anderson, Wallen and Associates, Inc. and DRH Company. Consideration of conditional use permit requests. Oh wait, I'll let you do number A first. Sorry, Mr. Reggett.
Perfect. You can hear me, right? Okay. Yes, DRH is the applicant on this. Yeah, we'll do this in 2 parts because conditional use permit is a completely separate approval process. I'll just review where they're at on this. There has been a change, I will note already. The engineering report in your packet is no longer the engineering report. I will share the most recent engineering report details. I'll just share it with my screen in a minute when we get there. But anyway, the applicant for this is Eric Malmberg and AWA Engineering, who have submitted the petition representing DRH Company on this, and he's joined us in the past and is with us tonight. This is the final subdivision and site plan review for these 2 new restaurant building pads with drive-through, as well as the private access drive aisles, the extension of 500 connecting to 550 West, a bunch of new utilities for the site, and all the supporting facilities for this project development that is located between approximately 400, which is a private drive known as Brands Way, but if you want to get your bearings, about 400 West and 500 West along Riverdale Road. The affected parcels are C2 zone, which is community commercial, and that leads to the conditional use part of this evening's discussion. The proposal is cafe restaurant use. Adjacent to this, or excuse me, restaurant drive-in use adjacent to this is a cafe restaurant use existing. There's a vacant building, apartment complex, and across the street from the commercial is another commercial center. So there's no public hearing required for this meeting. And following this presentation discussion, obviously the Planning Commission has multiple options. Should this recommendation be provided and either for, against, or contingent provided, then this matter can move forward to a future final subdivision and site plan approval consideration with the City Council based on whatever motion is made by the Planning Commission. I've provided all of the reports in your pack. I'll review those in just a second. Signage information and site lighting for the site has been provided in your packet and reflected if you have any questions about that. And the general plan used for this area says planned commercial high, and this does comply with that. As far as going through my notes and comments, again, for expeditious purposes, I'll just hit on the few things I have in yellow. Not that this is a huge deal, but it's still just one of those things that'd be nice to know. The planned or projected height for the buildings is unknown at this time. Where under new existing street says right-of-way lines, the actual term right-of-way needs to be spelled out and shown. It helps us just actually have that clear. I know, and this might be an old comment, I know he did say, Mr. Malberg did say right-of-way lines vary, or else it was on, maybe it was on the Raising Cane's one now that I think about it, that was on Raising Cane's. So even if Mr. Malberg shows a line and then says right-of-way lines vary, that would be still more clear. Under new existing water lines, the water meters aren't identified as water meters. I have an idea of where the bank of water meters are, but they're not clearly defined either with a legend or a notation, and the size of the water meters is currently unknown. On the gutter inlet box, and with bicycle safe grate, it's not identified as bicycle safe grate on the gutter inlet, like that term. We need something that says bicycle safe grates. Typically, engineering teams will just write that in around the gutter inlet box detail. So if we could get that. And then the water rights transfer needs to be provided by the Public Works Department, or provided to the Public Works Department, that transference. And I know Mr. Malberg's working on that. As you look down at the staff reviews, I'll go over Mr. Douglas's comments in more detail during the main meeting for the sake of time. Our police department has no concerns. Our fire department says that he's good, he has no concerns now, and our fire marshal says that he doesn't see any issues at this time. I will share with you all here, just give me 2 seconds here, and I'll pull up our updated city engineer letter because I think it's relevant and be good to know in this meeting. So just give me 1 second here. Can you all see that report from Mr. Nelson dated 22? Okay. So he just sent this to me today at about maybe 2 o'clock. And as you can see, he's got everything referenced to the Riverdale Landing Phase 2, the vacation plat, daycation plat, off-site improvement plans, Brownsway, which is the private drive, Riverdale Road, and then the site plans for Lot 201 and 202 as part of the project. As you can see here with his comments, he says, I've completed my review of the above referenced subdivision plats, vacation dedication, and the noted off-site and on-site improvement plans, and find the submitted drawings and calculations in compliance with the public works standards of Riverdale City. I've also reviewed the submitted engineer's cost estimate prepared by the design engineer, AWA, for the required public improvements. I agree with the engineer's cost estimate for the quantities and costs associated with the installation of the required public improvements. In my opinion, he notes the amounts. And then he says, if you have any questions, feel free to contact our office. So he's basically representing with that, and I'm going to stop this, but with that, so you can see there's evidence, he has, he's recommending approval. He's good with everything for this project. So that's a huge difference from what was in your packet. And that shows the level of work that Mr. Baumberg and his team took to correct Mr. Nelson's issues. He is still working with Sean Douglas, but I think that's a pretty major accomplishment for Mr. Malmberg and his team to resolve those issues and get this going. So, that being said, you'll see the application in the packet as previously provided, and then the engineer's cost estimate in there on page 41 and 42. And then following that, you'll see a representation of the exterior architectural drawings, the lighting plan, and the signage. Sorry about the coloration. I don't know where the discoloration took place to go black and white, but we'll work through it. If there's a way we can get that back in the color that was natively provided by the applicants, we'll do the best we can to get that shown. Other than that, that's pretty much, I think, everything to discuss at this point, and then I'll hurry and slide into the conditional use and try to run through the next items as quick as I can. If there's any questions for me, let me know. Otherwise, I'll slide into the conditional use portion if you want me to. Okay. And the thing is, too, if we don't get to Raising Cane's, there's a similar reflection. Oh, do you have something, Rick?
Yeah, sorry, it took me a minute to get unmuted. I did notice that in the packet that you sent, there is a letter from the engineer saying that, dated the 17th of December, saying that he's completed his review and that his concerns from his letter dated the 5th of November have all been resolved. So, you know, there again, he said that I herewith recommend approval. So there again, he is, you know, in the letter that you've included in the packet, he did recommend approval of the project.
Okay. So this is just a perfect. Thanks, Rick, for clarifying that. On the conditional use, then, I'll speed through this. Again, the applicant is Eric Malmberg and D. Hansen, representing the DRH company. They're requesting it for 2 restaurant buildings with drive-through use on the 2 building sites located at 4182 South and 4194 South Riverdale Road. Again, I've already talked about the zoning for it. Within the C2 zone matrix, the following category, restaurant with drive-in, is established as a conditional use for approval consideration by the Planning Commission. So you are the decision-making body for the conditional use, but the recommendation body for the subdivision and site plan. So make sure you remember that with your motions that you make. That's why they're Part A and Part B. The conditional use requires you to look at any outstanding health, safety, and welfare concerns that may exist in association with the newly proposed use. Now, again, it's just the use and the use on the site. And if the use has any impacts to neighboring, typically the reason we do conditional uses is because of residences. Now you might say, well, where are the residences? Well, there's residences are up on the bluff to the south, and then the apartment complex to the north. So really, when you're wondering who's this impacting, why the C2, those are the individuals that you're looking out for. I mean, you can look more broadly, but the health, safety, and welfare that you're really worried about is any residential impacts around this property. And if you can't find any, then obviously that makes the motion pretty easy. So that's the only staff guidance I would give as you look at that. Previously, the location was just vacant, undeveloped property. So let's see. As you look, I did highlight under ordinance guidelines, Potentially applicable items of concern and discussion have been provided in the review documents associated with these processes. The applicant has also provided, okay, so I'm just noting that I provided all that stuff in the previous item, but it would still be applicable here. And then if you look at the criteria for issuing a conditional use permit, you'll see the actual code criteria, and it's items A through G. So if you see anything in items A through G that stands out loudly at you that's a concern, those would be things that you would want to talk about for the conditional use discussion prior to making any motion. Otherwise, again, the general plan lists the area for planned commercial high. You'll see following that the application that's been provided and the payment that's been made, and that's pretty much it for the conditional uses. So I'll defer back. I know it's a lot of information, but I'll defer back to the Planning Commission for further discussion and guidance of where we want to go on the next item. Thank you.
Anybody have any further discussion on this? Okay, let's move into number 3. Consideration of final site plan recommendation for approval of Raising Cane's Restaurant, property located approximately 4168 South Riverdale Road, Riverdale, Utah, 84405, as requested by PM Design Group, Kimley Horn, and Raising Cane's Restaurant, LLC. Mr. Eggett?
Thank you. I'll speak through this. This is very similar to the last one. The address, as you note, is 4168 South Riverdale Road. It's directly south of the old Farmers Insurance Building, again in a C2 zone. And again, same kind of situation as far as what's around the site. Currently, the property is also owned by DRH Properties. This is lot 203 of the Riverdale Landing subdivision. So that, just take note of that. There's no public hearing required for this. And again, subject to whatever recommendation is made from the Planning Commission for this item, it can move forward to a future final site plan approval consideration with the City Council. Everything's the same as far as the guidance in the executive summary. My comments, I don't believe I have anything outstanding besides maybe the water shares, which I believe AWA is working on behalf of the Raising Cane's group and team here. So that should be taken care of there, I think, with Eric Mullenberg's guidance. As far as departmental staff report comments, I will just note, without going into all the other items for sake of time, Sean Douglas says, the following are my review comments for Raising Cane's. I'd be fine with approving the project contingent upon the items noted below being completed before the building permit is issued. So again, he's good with everything they've done. There's just a few things they'll have to show they meet before they would get a building permit. Police have no concerns. Fire, per previous review, have no concerns and no comments to add. Engineering, Scott Nelson says that he's completed his review of the recently submitted site plan drawings from the developer's design engineer. The review comments on my last review date, the 5th of November 2020. Oh, this might be your comment, Rick. That was Raising Cane's. So that's Raising Cane's review, or he said that. Have all been resolved. In my opinion, the drawings and calculations now reflect the standards of Riverdale City. I herewith recommend approval of site plan drawing, stormwater calculations, geotech report submitted. So Raising Cane's is good as of the 17th of December, and Riverdale Landing is good as of today, the 22nd of December, per our engineer. Then you'll see the applicant's submittal and review some review comments.
Mike, that Raising Cane's is part of that area, that what they're trying to do is part of that same project, though, right? Is it not?
Yeah, it's just a separate.
Okay, just a separate site plan. Okay.
Yeah. And then you'll see some estimated water consumption numbers on page 117, and then the packet thereafter. And again, for the purposes of the conditional use, since we're out of time, it's 100% the same discussion I had on Riverdale Landing, same type of analysis. It's just lot 203 for Raising Cane's. It is closer. The only thing that's different clearly is it is much closer in relationship to the apartment complex from that diagonal perspective. But again, it is diagonal. It's not like right next to it. So that's the only other thing I'd say about the conditional use permit. And with that, I defer back to the commission because I think Shaylee has just a few quick comments, and then we should be good. Thank you.
Shaylee, what do you got for us?
Yes. Okay, so it's just the yearly calendar. I would normally just have it all put it together and just have you guys approve it, but with the city council, they wanted to adjust a few dates. So I wanted to give you the opportunity to just take a look at it and see if everything works for you, and then we can make a motion on it. But I would need a motion on it today because we have to have it before January.
Okay. And we can do that at the end of our meeting,
Yes.
correct?
Mhm.
Okay. Okay, perfect. I say, let's move into our meeting. So I'd like to welcome everybody here to the Tuesday, December 22nd, 2020 Planning Commission meeting. I'd like to note everyone, all the Planning Commission members are here with the exception of Blair Jones. And do you have any public comment? Is there anybody there, Shaylee, or?
I don't have anybody in here, and I have not received any emails and nothing on the live feed.
Okay. Okay. With that, I'll turn the time over to Mr. Eggett for presentation and reports.
Thank you. As noted in the previous meeting, just briefly, Five Below has a building permit issued. They're moving forward. Harbor Freight is close to having a building permit issued, minus one thing they're going back and forth with the building official. Scandinavian Designs is contingently open for business with a temporary permit. I did fail to note previously that Lucky Buffet has relocated to South Ogden, so that is now a vacant space. But we're swapping the restaurants with their Cafe Rio, so they get Lucky Buffet, we get Cafe Rio. I guess that's how that turns out. So I did know Best Buy is being demoed. There's a store of Fresh Nails relocating over by Bombay Bites out of that center and Salon Centric, and then once that is able to relocate, that will be demolished. I did also fail to note, some of you planning commissioners, maybe all of you already know by now, but the city council did similarly deny the rezone request. It was a 4-1 vote. If you're curious, you're welcome to go watch that video to kind of see how that discussion went. But otherwise, if you just want a quick report, it was a 4-1 vote along similar decision making. So at this point, I'm not sure what the property owners of the 8s will do with the property, but I guess they'll have to determine what their options are at that point. I don't know. So with that, that's the report, and I'll leave it at that unless you have any other questions for me. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Eggett. Consent item, consideration of meeting minutes from our November 24th, 2020 work session and regular meeting. Anybody see any corrections? I had noticed there was just one small typo, but I can't find it now, so it must be fine.
Well, if you find it later, just send me an email and I can fix it before we have you sign it. So, as long as
Okay. Perfect. It was something simple, but but now it's not sticking out in my head. So, do we have a motion to approve?
I'd like to make a motion. We approve the meeting minutes from November 24th, 2020.
I second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, perfect. We'll dive into our action items. Action item E1, discussion regarding proposed rezone request for properties located at approximately 1450 West Riverdale Road, Riverdale, Utah. Do we have any discussion on this?
I don't have anything to add unless there were some questions that didn't come out of the work session.
I liked how you worded that, Mike, in the work session, that we can make this still a win-win if something falls through.
Yeah, that's the thing is, even prior to this, I've had a lot of broker conversations, and it's kind of gone back and forth both from Maverick's broker team as well as Gibby's. And there has been a reservation, and I haven't ever quite figured out or cracked a solution. And then this morning, it hit me. It's like, there it is. That still lets us make a policy decision, but doesn't hold their feet to a fire if Maverick backs out. But then we're not stuck to a development agreement either. So yeah.
And do we still have Eric Anderson with us?
I think he's still learning the ropes of how this works. I think he thought he only needed to attend the work session, and he left, and then he sent me an email. So I'll talk to him and explain that we need him in the future for both, especially during the rezone itself, for both meetings in the future. I think he just didn't quite understand.
Okay, because we may have some questions about having Maverick and Maverick also close. So, not that they don't do very, very well.
Yeah, and at this point, really your discussion again is going to focus solely about the application, and if anything's wrong with the application or you have concerns about scheduling it. Other than that, I would limit your conversation anyway until the main meeting.
Okay, perfect. So, consideration to set public hearing for proposed rezone request from agricultural A1 zoning to regional commercial C3 zoning for properties located at approximately 1450 West Riverdale Road, Riverdale, Utah 84405, as requested by Maverick / Eric Anderson.
I guess, again, just a quick primer, and then you can go ahead and consider maybe taking a motion. The date that would be your next Planning Commission meeting that you could schedule this for would be January 12, 2020, during your main meeting at approximately 6:30 p.m. So if you did a motion that referenced that date and that time, you'd probably be good.
Is that a good time for most all of us here?
It's just when you set the public hearing, as far as the date, the 12th? Okay.
Right.
It's our regular meeting, right? Yeah. Yeah. I move that we schedule a public hearing to consider the rezone from agricultural A1 zoning to C3 zoning for properties located approximately 1450 West Riverdale Road, Riverdale, Utah, as requested by Maverick. This public hearing to be held on the 12th of January at approximately 6:30 p.m.
Thank you very much. Second?
I'll second that.
Okay. Should I have Shaylee poll the commission, Mike?
On this one, it doesn't matter, really.
Okay. So all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Perfect. We'll have our public hearing on January 12th, 2021. Let's move into action item 2A. Consideration of final subdivision site plan and plat recommendation for approval of Riverdale Landing Phase 2 subdivision, property located approximately 4182 South and 4194 South Riverdale Road, Riverdale, Utah 84405, as requested by Anderson, Wallen and Associates, Inc. and DRH Company. Mr. Eggett?
Mr. Conley, will you mute your phone? Okay, great, thank you. Perfect. The applicant on this is Eric Malmberg, who's the project engineer with AWA Engineering, representing DRH Company's interest. On the call with us tonight, representing DRH specifically, Spencer Conley, who has joined us. And then their team's architect and kind of color design associate is Lou Funk, who's also on the call with us. So if you have any questions in any of those directions for those three gentlemen, they're here to answer questions you may have. It is for 2 new restaurant pads with drive-through, new private access drive aisles, new utilities supporting facilities for the real estate area located between Brands Way or 400 West and 500 West Riverdale Road. It also connects more specifically with curb gutter sidewalk and some retention systems, 550 and 500 for future development, which is a good thing and will further allow this area to develop more fully as a future property in this RDA area wants to be developed. Property is currently owned by DRH Properties LLC, and there's no public hearing for this review. I discussed a lot of the other elements in our previous meeting, so I won't go over much more in the executive summary, other than to note in the general plan, it's currently set as planned commercial high, and this proposed project does comply with this land use. Items of note, Eric, you were at the work session, I'm sure, so you heard hopefully all my comments under my review, so I won't review those again, but those were noted in the work session. Moving down, I will review, for the Planning Commission's sake, Mr. Douglas's comments. I do know Mr. Malberg has been talking to Mr. Douglas or trying to work with him in resolving these comments, but they're still working through those. These are Mr. Douglas's comments under stormwater, drainage system operation and maintenance plan recorded with the plat before building permit is issued. That operation and maintenance plan has been prepared by Mr. Malberg. It's just direction that it'll need to be recorded. So that it has been provided. Notice of intent filed with the state for the storm drainage. Note to certify retention detention structure size after construction. Underwater, provide water usage peak demands, provide what water shares, which again we know water shares, and then other just some notes regarding construction materials, meeting Riverdale City standards, and replacement of defective materials, and cross-access agreement for utilities. Now to the offsite, which is going to be the roads, the private drive, those utilities that stub into the lots themselves. These are Mr. Douglas's comments. Again, drainage system operation and maintenance plan and BMP submitted, approved and recorded with the plat. BMP is to treat stormwater before water enters underground retention, detention, or city system. Stormwater prevention plan for the construction site, including BMPs. All stormwater inspections will need to be completed on Compliance Go, which is a state system. Notice of intent, again, note to certify retention detention structure, injection well permit for the overall drainage design. On street light corner on 500 West, and under sewer manhole is short for sanitary sewer stub, but not called out on 500 West. Oh, it's shown, not short, shown. So it just needs to be declared. And then sewer stubs on Brands Way should be continued to end of asphalt going east. So those are Mr. Douglas's few comments for this portion of the project. Under the police and fire, as I noted, they don't have any concerns. And now I've also noted the curing review comments from our city engineer, where he's supportive of all the documentation that's been updated. They aren't necessarily the documents in this packet, right, Eric? They're probably newer drawings. So the newer drawings that Eric has provided to our engineer that is not the packet. However, those drawings have corrected the items that have otherwise been noted in this packet. So do take stock of that as you consider whatever motions you make tonight. Do note too, the vacation plat, that is something that just, if you're wondering what that is, it is a kind of unique element, and maybe for the purposes of just quick education, we have some right-of-way areas that are currently 550 West is a road that used to go up to some old homes, and it's kinked. It's kind of got a weird configuration. It's kinked, right? Well, that has to be vacated. That right-of-way has to be vacated, and then you have to create a new alignment and then dedicate new right-of-way. Really what it's doing is just shifting the old right-of-way over, but for the purposes of survey and legalities, you vacate the old right-of-way and then you create a new right-of-way. Okay, and that's all we're doing. And the further thing is, 500 West, when it was shot through, there used to be a home there that was removed, and the city just kind of bought the property and shot a road through to give the residents some relief that used to be there. But the road was really never developed or dedicated as a right-of-way. So this further strengthens that dedication and that right-of-way and puts the better curb gutter sidewalk in there. So when you go up in there in the future, it's going to feel more like a city street the way that it needs to, whereas before we just kind of shot some asphalt through to connect through. So that will be an improvement of this. And then there'll be a new internal private drive that will connect to Brands Way along Krispy Kreme, where it's already been started, and then continue northward and link up to Brands Way. So just be aware of that. There's a lot going on here with the RDA. And when you wonder how is this going to be paid for, it's an association effort between the Redevelopment Agency of Riverdale City and DRH companies to do this project. So with that just I think helps to hopefully explains better what's going on with this project. So yeah, our engineer is good with all the vacation and dedication plats and the the escrow funds that have been represented, the engineer's cost estimate, that has been represented as part of this. And you do have that engineer's cost or both engineer's cost estimate documents in your packet as well. So for on-site and off-site improvements for the project. Now, one thing to note with those engineering cost estimate numbers, those will also reflect to the benefit of Raising Cane's. So Raising Cane's will not provide engineer's cost estimate because Riverdale Landing project covers all of those expenses. So just imagine that, or think that Raising Cane's is almost a plug and play to everything that Eric Mullenberg and his team is doing. So just take note of that. That's why you won't see an engineer's cost estimate in their packet, because AWA's efforts are covering all that as part of this development design. So, and you'll see a little bit of that as well as some landscaping numbers with Raising Cane's, where now they've been able, if you remember our last meeting, Raising Cane's had some landscaping issues. Those have since been resolved by being relocated into this Riverdale Landing project. And Riverdale Landing meets and exceeds the percentage, but that roadway is part of the Riverdale Landing project and those landscaping numbers, and that has resolved that discrepancy to the benefit of Raising Cane's project, okay? So with that, I think that pretty much covers everything. You have your architectural renderings and signage and other lighting details, etc., in the packet. If you have any specific questions about those items, again, there are team members on this call. And with that, I defer to the Planning Commission for any questions or comments, concerns you may have. Thank you.
Do you have any comments, questions? Anybody?
I would just like to say that I'm really impressed. I know there was a lot of work that had to be done between the last time you were with us and this time. And thank you so much for doing such a great job of getting that done. I know that we're not 100%, but it's looking really good. Thank you.
Thank you, Rick. Appreciate that.
Anybody else?
I'm not sure, but I think it's a typographical error. Is Brand's Way, is it B-R-A-N-Z, or is there a T in there?
There is not a T. Mr. Douglas did type that wrong. It is with just a Z. No T in there.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Can I ask one other question? Is there any homes still up there above where Krispy Kremes are, where that road winds up and around? Is there any homes up there anymore?
No, the RDA went through and working with DRH and has vacated and demolished all of those and cleared a bunch of vegetation that used to be back there. So it's all open up now.
So it's just empty property then?
That's correct. For the RDA and Mr. Hansen to develop. That's correct.
So do we have any plans for that?
Oh
back
yeah.
There?
There's plans trying to happen. There's things that are trying to work. Yeah.
What I was thinking is we need to kind of somewhat know if there's something back there that's going to affect these businesses out here. Is that going to affect the businesses?
No, because the staff has already discussed all those implications with the applicants. The applicant team has looked at that as well. This is a little unique more of a unique project in that the redevelopment agency of the city, which is city staff in a different role, is looking out for those very interests that you're bringing up and have had those discussions already. So the way you see it designed actually has already been designed sensitive to exactly what you're asking about.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions? Do we have a motion?
Amy?
Yeah.
Okay, I would like to make a motion to recommend City Council approval of the Riverdale Landing Phase 2 subdivision site plan and plat located approximately 4182 South and 4194 South Riverdale Road, Riverdale, Utah, as requested by Anderson, Whalen and Associates Incorporated and DRH Company.
Could I request Commissioner Wingfield to just amend that to include with the understanding to resolve outstanding staff concerns where there's just a few lingering?
Yes.
And I'll second it.
Okay, all in favor?
I typically do a roll call on this one.
I was gonna, Shaylee, will you pull the commission, please?
Commissioner, oh, just kidding. Hold on, he's not here. Commissioner Knight,
Aye.
Commissioner Spires,
Aye.
Commissioner DeMar,
Aye.
Commissioner Herman,
Aye.
Commissioner Wingfield,
Aye.
and Commissioner Anderson.
Aye.
Okay, passes unanimously. Our next agenda item is the consideration of conditional use permit request for restaurant with drive-in use.
Don't we want to do oh, I'm sorry. Just apologize. Go ahead.
Okay, all right. Consideration of conditional use permit request for restaurant with drive-in use request at approximately 4182 South and 4194 South Riverdale Road, Riverdale, Utah, in the Regional Commercial C3 Zone as requested by Anderson, Wayland and Associates, Inc. and DRH Company. Mr. Eggett?
The first thing that gets me concerned, it doesn't say C3. If it does, I apologize. It does. That's my mistake. So that should not say regional commercial. That should say community commercial C2 zone. It's in the packet correctly in the executive summary, so that's not an issue. But it is actually community commercial C2 zone. So that's probably my fault when I put that agenda together. My apologies on that. That being said, this isn't a C2 zone. The conditional use permit is required for all uses in a C2 zone. It's just what the C2 zone requires, and it's meant to be a mechanism to protect neighboring residences typically. So, just with that clarification, I apologize for the agenda shown that way, and I'll be more careful to fine-tooth comb that in the future. My sincerest apologies. Anyway, with that, yeah, the standard in the C2 zone matrix for this type of a use is literally termed as restaurant with drive-in. And because of that, the Planning Commission acts as the approval body for the purposes of this. This does not go to the City Council. However, I will reflect, based on the decision made this evening, what that decision is to the City Council as part of their review of the site plan. Now, again, this is only for the buildings themselves. This has nothing to do with the subdivision. So only look at lots 201 and 202 where the buildings are, and the issues tied to lots 201 and 202 and what they may or may not do from a health, safety, welfare perspective when you make your evaluation. But you are a decision-making body in this aspect. So you can approve with conditions, you can table for the right, if you have a reason and bring it back, or you cannot approve it. But make sure whatever you do, you have some decisions for your finding of fact. Even if you approve it, it's probably just good to say something like a finding of fact where, based on a finding that it has no direct negative impacts to neighboring property owners or adjacent residential areas, something like that. Make sure you have a good finding with your decision-making body. Under Title 10 Ordinance Guidelines, you'll see the criteria as items A through G. You can review those and again make sure that there's no issues with what's being proposed, but if everything feels in order, you can go ahead and make a decision that way following any discussion that may come up. General plan guidance for this area is again planned commercial high, and you'll see the application has been submitted and fees paid for, and all the supporting documentation we've already reviewed in item A. So I will defer to planning commissioners for your discussion and any questions you may have of me or the applicant team. Thank you.
Anybody have any discussions, questions? And I think, didn't we talk about that there, with Wanda's question, it kind of goes hand in hand with this, that it shouldn't affect anybody where it's at?
I don't want to coach the commission from my perspective where these two buildings would be located. They're not close enough in proximity from my perspective as having negative detrimental impacts to any residential areas either above to the south or to the north. based upon even just the distance of them. And there's even a photometric plan in your packet where if you were concerned about any upward lighting sheds. I know the color being gone really damages your photometric, so if for some reason you feel like you want to see that photometric, I can quickly pull that up and share it in color. But again, you know, lighting, traffic, noise are any of those things of such an impact that you couldn't grant this conditional use permit request tonight. That's kind of how you want to think about it. From my perspective, as a staff member, I don't know that I see it, but again, this is really at your discretion as decision makers.
Any questions, concerns from any of you? I think if we make a motion to pass it, we just, as Mike said, do it with the discretion that it doesn't affect any neighboring homes or businesses.
Make it a finding. You know, I approve blank, blank, blank based upon the finding of it not having any apparent impacts to something like that.
Okay. Motion?
I'll take a stab at it. I would move that we approve the conditional use permit request for a restaurant with drive-in use request at approximately 4182 South, 4194 South, Riverdale Road, Riverdale, Utah, in the regional commercial C2 zone as requested.
Community commercial, sorry, that's my mistake. Community commercial C2.
Okay, commercial, community commercial C2, is that right?
Yeah.
Okay. As requested by Anderson, Wallen and Associates Incorporated and the DRH Company, pending any findings of any detrimental aspects that might affect those residents adjacent to this property.
Could I just cure that, say not pending, but based upon or with the finding, something like that, that it doesn't?
Based upon the findings that there is nothing that affects the adjacent residents to this property.
I second that.
Awesome. Shaylee, will you poll the commission, please?
Commissioner Nye?
Aye.
Commissioner Spires?
Aye.
Commissioner Dumar?
Aye.
Commissioner Herman?
Aye.
Commissioner Anderson?
Aye.
Commissioner Wingfield?
Aye.
Okay. Move forward.
Thank you, everybody on the planning commission. Appreciate that.
Okay. Let's, you're very welcome. Let's move on to item number 3. A, consideration of final site plan recommendation for approval of Raising Cane's restaurant property located approximately 4168 South Riverdale Road, Riverdale, Utah, 84405, as requested by PM Design Group, Kimley Horn, and Raising Cane Restaurants, LLC. Mr. Eggett?
Thank you. Again, I think based upon our work session discussion and the previous discussion on the item that's kind of the parent item, if you will, or parent review, this one falls right in line with a lot of those comments. This is obviously for a different entity that would go on lot 203 of the Riverdale Landing project for a restaurant drive-in or restaurant with drive-through use, as noted. The zoning for it is community commercial C2 zone. It's located directly south of the existing Farmers Insurance building, or the old, the vacant Farmers Insurance building location. and it does have a conditional use component. With us tonight, as part of Raising Cane's interest, is Marissa Muha with PM Design Group, and Chris Bick has joined us with Kimberly Horn. So if you have any questions about the project, those would be the two that could assist. Again, this is a recommendation, so following the recommendation discussion, if a recommendation is provided, then this could move forward to a future site plan approval consideration with the City Council. Property for this location is currently owned by DRH Properties, and all the supporting information relative to signage and lighting is in your packet. General plan use for this area is set as planned commercial high, and this proposed use does comply with that land use. With my report, you'll see I don't have any comments in yellow, so that's always a good sign. The applicants have fulfilled what I'm looking for. The only the only guidance I would make sure is that the water shares that are required for this project be provided. But again, as noted, that should be provided through Riverdale Landing LLC or Riverdale Landing's team. Eric Molberg and his team are working on that, so that will be provided, I think, to the Raising Cane's group in this effort. So just take note of that. The comments from our city engineer in his report are, he says, the following are my review comments for Raising Cane's. I would be fine with approving the projected, I think he meant project, contingent upon the item notes below being completed before the building permit is issued. His notes under stormwater are the drainage system operation and maintenance kind BMPs record with plat. We have received that manual. We do have a draft manual of that, just that will need to be recorded against the plat, which will be included for lot 203. Stormwater prevention plan for construction site, including BMPs with restroom. Notice of intent filed with state, injection well permit if required. Again, that's more likely tied to Riverdale Landing's efforts, but clearly because it's being developed by Raising Cane's, it does apply to them as well. For underwater, it says fire line needs a valve with connection to main line. Water line sizes need to match. Plan shows a 2-inch water line connected to a 1.5-inch water meter. Item 3, provide water usage peak demands. These need to include outside landscape watering. I provided it. I don't know if he's saying that what was provided wasn't sufficient for what he's looking for, so that is something to note, Marissa and Chris, just as you're working through your efforts there. And then his final one is, again, provide what water sources will be used to meet water requirements. The police chief has no comments. The fire chief has no comments. Additionally, they're both good with it. The engineer says that he's completed a review of the site plan drawings and developer's design. This is from a letter dated 17th December 2020. Review comments in my last review dated the 5th of November 2020 have all been resolved. In my opinion, the drawings and calculations now reflect the standards of Riverdale City. I herewith recommend approval of the site plan drawings, stormwater calculations, geotechnical report as submitted. So he's good with it. You'll see the application thereafter. A long list of response comments showing all the efforts that they took in resolving staff concerns and addressing as closely and correctly as they could with what they were provided. There is a water consumption table that was provided as part of that. There was some other documentation, very technical in nature, that was provided by their team, and that was relayed over to, respectively, Mr. Nelson and Mr. Douglas for their efforts. So if you have any more specific questions and you don't see it here, there may be a document that addresses it, but otherwise they've reviewed that and made comments about that. Following that, you'll see all the drawings, and following the drawings, you'll see then architectural renderings of the site, how the building will look, the signage on it, etc. I did fill the note both with this one and Riverdale Landing project. Both has gone through a design review committee process, and both design review committee processes approved the plan as submitted in your packet. So they're both approved for this project, and that obviously is always a big deal. So just take note of that. And then with that, I would defer to the Planning Commission for any questions you may have of me or the Raising Cane's team. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Agate. Do we have any comments, suggestions, questions? I think, again, just a good job getting everything cleaned up, tidied up, and ready to go. It looks good.
Can I ask, Mike, the information that's on the stormwater and all the water concerns, has that all been taken care of, or is that just something still that needs to be done?
I think based on Sean Douglas's comments, he's saying that there's a few very minor technical things that he needs to work through with them, but he's not concerned enough to where he wouldn't be able to approve it even at a city council level as it is. They just need to resolve that before any building permit could be issued, which I think that they can work through that. So that's what he's saying. It's pretty minor. Or it's logistical that you can't quite do until you have a plat in place to record against and have some of these permits issued. So it's one of those two categories. Either it's minor engineering stuff or it can't be done yet. So that's what he's reflecting.
Anybody want a motion?
I move that we recommend to the city council approve of Raising Cane's restaurant property located approximately, or the site plan for the Raising Cane's restaurant property located approximately 4168 South Riverdale Road, Riverdale, Utah 84405, as requested by PM Design Group, Kimley Horn, and Raising Cane's Restaurants LLC, based upon satisfaction of all city staff concerns.
Second.
I'll second it.
Okay. Shaylee, will you poll the commission, please?
Commissioner Wingfield,
Aye.
Commissioner Herman,
Aye.
Commissioner DeMar,
Aye.
Commissioner Spires,
Aye.
Commissioner Anderson,
Aye.
Commissioner Nye.
Aye.
Okay. Passes unanimously. Then we have a conditional use permit, item 3B, consideration of conditional use permit request for restaurant with drive-in use request at approximately 4168 South Riverdale Road, Riverdale, Utah, in the regional commercial C3 zone. Should that be C3 or C2?
It's the same correction, community commercial C2 zone.
Okay, do community commercial C2 zone as requested by PM Design Group, Kimley Horn, and Raising Cane's Restaurants LLC. Mr. Agate?
Thank you. Again, where this is pretty much a redundancy on what was discussed as the conditional use permitting for Riverdale Landing, I won't really go into too much detail. Pretty much everything is identical, where it's the same type of use, it's a neighboring pad, it's plug and play with what Riverdale Landing's trying to do. The only difference is on this one, its relative location. It's probably of the three lots, if you want to see it this way, it is the closest to a residential area with the apartments, but they are diagonally adjacent. They're not obviously directly adjacent with that farmer's building being next door. So do just take that into consideration as you think through your decision making. But other than that, the features are the same. They have provided a photometrics again. Those are your pack. I can bring those up if you want to see that. Their lighting plan and their signage. Again, their building and the building relief and the lighting relief is all pushed towards Riverdale Road, which is always a good thing when you're looking at conditional use. It's tried to skew itself as far away from the residential as possible so as to not impact the residential, which is a good thing, right? That's what we like to see. If this was pushed more to the east, it would have definitely more impact towards the apartment complex. So that's something to think about. And with that, I defer to the Planning Commission for any questions you may have of me or the applicants. Thank you.
This is similar in location and design for what's already in place with Starbucks on the corner there, isn't it, as far as proximity?
Yeah, and yeah, even the parking lots. Yeah. In fact, Starbucks is probably even a little bit closer, in all honesty. Yeah.
Any other questions or concerns?
I have no concerns. This is going to be a definite positive for that part of Riverdale Road, having these buildings there.
I'd like to make a motion that we approve the conditional use permit for the drive-in located approximately 4168 South Riverdale Road, Riverdale, Utah, in the regional commercial C2 zone, as requested by PM Design Group, Kimley Horn, and Raising Cane's Restaurant LLC.
Would you add defining language again? Defining that or something like that?
I'm sorry, Mike, say again?
Just will you add defining language with defining that there's no recognized whatever detrimental impacts to neighboring residences?
Okay, approval contingent upon any findings for the residential area surrounding the proposed location.
I'll second that.
And not contingent upon, just with the finding, because you're finding it as a commission. So with the finding that there is none.
With the finding that, thank you, Mike.
Perfect. Thanks. Sorry, guys.
Again, I'll second that.
Okay. Shaylee, will you pull the commission, please?
Commissioner Anderson,
Aye.
Commissioner Spires,
Aye.
Commissioner Herman,
Aye.
Commissioner DeMar,
Aye.
Commissioner Wingfield,
Aye.
and Commissioner Knight.
Aye.
Okay, passes unanimously. Great job. Okay, I don't know if everybody else wants to stay on, but now we're going to go into the discussion and consideration to approve the 2021 Annual Planning Commission calendar. Okay, Shaylee, do you want to take the time over now?
Oh, sure. So, everyone, I put it into your packet. So, if you just want to look over it, make sure everything looks okay on your side, then we can go ahead and get a motion if we need to adjust anything, or we can cancel meetings like we normally do if we don't have anything, or, yeah. So, I'm still working on, sorry, what?
Oh, sorry. Go ahead. I thought you were finished. Go
You're
ahead.
okay. So I'm still working on the city council one, and I'm gonna send it out to everybody once it's all done, and it's gonna show like strategic planning and budget reviews and everything like that. So those ones are not in yours as of yet, but I will send you the one that's updated with the city council.
All right. Now I'll ask you my question, or at least guidance on what you know, because even I must not have been paying attention. But for the planning commissioner's sake, can you explain the February 9th date and what you know of the reason for the change to the strategic planning meeting on the 9th?
Yes. So I initially had it in March, I believe, and we had to change that because Cody, our business administration, needed more time to do the budget. So we made that the earlier date, so the first date of February. So then that way he has the additional month to do it, because I did it way later.
Do you know why it was moved from the fall time period where we normally do it all the way up to the spring time period? That's brand new as far as
Yeah, see,
even I know. I didn't know that.
You're okay. So that is something that I'm actually gonna have to go over the minutes and make sure, because they even were gonna send me an additional email. So because Cody wanted to make sure everything worked, and there's one with the May, there's one with the fall. I think we're just with COVID, we're a little bit up in the air. So those ones, like strategic and everything like that, I will send it updated. So that way in your motion, if you just want to state with necessary amendments to come, I really don't know how you want to word that, but it will be amended on those ones. But everything else, just the normal dates, I just want to make sure everything looks okay to you and go from there. Sorry, that's I know it's just jumbled and yeah, but.
So Shaylee, that February 9th, then is that where I know they're talking? I kind of know where you're getting. They were talking as council. I was equally confused. So,
no, you're good. So that one is actually supposed to be for the budget. So on yours, on the draft schedule, I am sorry if I had it as strategic. So that's actually the budget.
Okay, so
the planning commission doesn't need to go to that. Sorry.
Okay, that's where I wanted to clear that up.
Sorry.
That's what's confusing. So the joint strategic planning meeting is likely still in the fall to be determined date. Okay.
Sorry, I'm blonde.
That's what I want to clear up, so the planning commissioners weren't wondering why are we having a meeting in February?
Yes. So no, February 9th, you guys can just strike that. I was trying to go off both calendars, and yeah. So we can just strike that one.
So will we have a meeting on the 9th?
No. Let me see. Let me pull up the email.
The way I remember the meeting went is the answer is no asterisk. No, unless there's some really urgent, strong need. Like if we had a development project that had to go and have a meeting on the 9th, we would probably hold a quick planning commission meeting prior, as early as we could do it at our 6 or 6:30 time frame, and then allow time for them to take over and have a budget discussion meeting.
Okay.
The hope is no. The hope is that we can just not have a meeting for the sake of the budget discussions that we want to have that night.
Perfect. Does anybody want to make a motion for this?
I move that we accept the calendar with amendments.
Perfect.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Do we have any discretionary items? Anybody?
I just want to say thank you for all of you for sticking with us this year. I know it's been a crazy year. Riverdale has been a marathon this year. I don't know what's going on with your guys' community. You guys are crazy. No, just that there's so much development. It's amazing that, we're in the middle of this COVID crisis and all these economic issues, and yet Riverdale keeps on churning out projects. It's amazing, guys. And I really appreciate your patience as we work through these processes, because there's a lot to do here. And like the mayor said, 2021, you guys might have your eyes made even bigger with some of the things that are trying to happen. It's pretty impressive, and I just hope you'll keep sticking with us and be patient with us as staff. If we mess up and call something regional commercial, which could be community commercial or things like that, we'll try to fix it. But there's some exciting things still coming, and appreciate you working on some more challenging rezone discussions, and I really appreciate this team. I really do. I think it takes a lot to be a planning commissioner and some of the challenges you have, and I just really appreciate each and every one of you and get to know you, and I hope someday I'll be able to be with you in person again and have those relationships, which I appreciate a lot more than I still appreciate these relationships, but you know what I mean, being around and with you and having those experiences. So I'm hopeful for 2021. I look forward to continually working with you, and I hope that you all have a wonderful holiday season.
Well, I just want to say thank you to all of you guys for all of your love, your support, your understanding. I promise my brain will come back sometime soon, but I just want to thank all of you for all of your support.
Mike, I do have one question. Something that I saw the other day, and you alluded to it earlier, and I don't know whether you can comment on this or not. But you mentioned that Cafe Rio's a swap, and I noticed that the board on that property that we've just discussed tonight has listed Cafe Rio supposedly going there, but you kind of mentioned that maybe it might be located elsewhere.
That's the swap. And if you look closely at that board, you'll see it also evidences a third restaurant. I think I brought it up before. Mobetta is on there as well. That is pretty much a lock. So you're getting Cafe Rio, Mobettas, and Raising Cane's all right there. So be ready for some traffic and congestion. That's all I can say.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. Motion to adjourn.
Well, may I say before I move that we adjourn, Merry Christmas to you all. It's been, I've been here 2 years now, and it's been, really, and Amy Ann Spires has been here about that same amount of time. I think we both came on about the same time. But it's been a really good getting to know you all and working with you all. And with that, I move that we adjourn.
Second it. Merry Christmas, everybody.
All in favor?
Aye.
Bye, guys.